Brad and Johanna, thanks for taking a few minutes to share some of your insight about disaster and pandemic response, a topic that I know a lot of people are thinking about. For anyone not familiar with Keystone, this is something that we've been working on for a long time, and you two together have over 25 years experience in dealing with these issues, so I appreciate you taking some time. Brad, I'm going to start with you. This is obviously a collaborative effort when these agencies and these communities come together to try to develop these plans. Can you talk about the different types of strategic engagement that are involved when developing these plans?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think it's an important one because many people are unaware of just the vast web of relationships, ongoing partnerships that are necessary for both preparing for and then responding to such an event. Those are, two parallel and interwoven streams of planning that require multifaceted relationships. It's take a given government organization within at a level of jurisdiction, public health, specific public health preparedness. They need to be connected, as needed, and have plans for responding together with law enforcement, first responders of different kinds, politicians with a direct relationship with the general public, media, scientific experts of different kinds, medical practitioners of different kinds, and their counterparts to any of those stakeholders sometimes at a variety of jurisdictional levels: federal, state, local, territorial, tribal, and also adjacent communities, particularly in the event of, say, natural disaster, where a given community in a vulnerable zone needs to know what their evacuation destinations are. Also, unlikely partners we might not think of, entertainment venues, community organizations that can provide access to places for people to shelter in place or queue up for some kind of therapeutic, an antidote, a vaccine. And I guess another partner that's important to emphasize is the general public. They're not just at the receiving end of a message or a syringe or an invitation, but they need to be engaged as a partner all the way along so that the plans government agencies and their closer partners are coming up with are going to meet with a receptive audience.
One of the reasons, Johanna, why this collaborative effort is so important is because these plans actually have to be tailored to the community. Can you explain a little bit about how geographic or cultural context must be factored in when developing these plans?
Yeah, I think the cultural context is vitally important, and really understanding the similarities and differences in communities matters. Place matters. We're shaped by really different, unique cultural and ethnic, geographic, religious differences. Understanding the needs, the preferences, the values of our diverse communities is important. When planning for a disaster and when responding to a disaster, we're making life and death choices, and understanding the cultural context and really the preferences, who's trusted in that community, how do people want to be communicated with, that really matters. And I think helps understanding those differences helps shape plans that are more sensitive and responsive to local needs and differences.
Sometimes these conversations can be thought when they're being made that it's being done in an abstract. And as we found in some months that there may be a time when these plans need to be put into action. So Joanna, I'd be interested on your thoughts on, what's the reaction you've had from folks that you've engaged with when you've had these conversations, which can be difficult. And are there any concerns that they're desires would change if they ever had to put these plans into place.
Yeah, I think, in all the work that Brad and I have done in this space, depending on the threat, I think we were hoping it would always just be in the abstract. But, we're facing a really unprecedented time, and I'm grateful that we've been able to work with the amazing partners we have over many years to put plans in place that I think are shaping community response and activity during this time, and will only help strengthen plans and partnerships in the future. I think, planning is never goes wasted, and I think the partners that we've previously worked with have said the same currently and previously when they've put work and planning into action like they did with H1N1. So I think that advanced planning is never a mistake, and I think engaging with diverse stakeholders and with the public has an unintended consequence, and that consequence is relationship building. And so whether it's coronavirus or a hurricane or a wildfire, whatever the threat, those relationships and communication pathways that are built through the planning process, looking at and assessing, what are the capabilities within one's community, what are those resources, and who are those non-traditional partners, building those relationships, doing those assessments isn't wasted. And I think folks are building on those relationships now when things are going right and when things are really challenging.
Yeah, Brad, your thoughts?
Yeah, these preparation and response plans provide responsible parties with decision trees, with guidelines, with channels of communication, but beyond that two-dimensional reality, things won't happen according to plan. These are not scripts, and the partners involved will almost certainly need to do some creative adaptation. And I want to underscore Johanna's emphasis of the importance of relationships and acknowledge that these relationships between leaders, influencers, people who make things happen in all of these different community level partners throughout this web. Creating a relationship isn't a one-off moment. These need to be sustained over time, recognizing that a decision tree and organization chart as part of a plan may have been put into place when people got to know each other at an important cross-sector meeting 4 years ago. And within the last 4 years, people have retired. They've been promoted. So maintaining those relationships, resuscitating them, recreating them, in addition to on a regular basis doing realistic drills is essential. Taking into account people will move on, and things won't happen according to our fondest hopes. Resources will be in shortfall. Things will happen that we can't expect. So making sure that our plans are fluid and designed to be adaptable is an essential part of this preparedness.
Yeah, I think an important piece of this is whether the disaster is a pandemic or a hurricane or a wildfire, these disasters don't see geographic boundaries. And I think our partners have seen the value in broadening their perspectives and understanding of their partners and the public's values that shape their perspectives on these issues. And that understanding builds relationships. And, you know, I think we see that in the work that we do in other, you know, in other settings, but we really see it in this, in the engagement type of work that we've done in disaster planning and preparedness, because we're not talking about easy decisions. We're talking about crisis standards of care. We're talking about life and death decisions. And some of those things can't be black and white. And so that understanding and those relationships are vital when things are really tough and the decisions, you know, it can't be a decision tree every day. It takes some subjective decision making, and that's hard and that's challenging. And so doing that in cooperation with a foundation of really strong partnerships, communication, and relationships is absolutely vital to the success of those response efforts.
You know, it really does emphasize the work that I've been able to see with Keystone is, you know, we do all that we can to have leaders, sometimes divergent leaders, come together to collaborative action. But sometimes the most important outcome of that effort is the relationships that are built of those people that go through that process. And that's, I think, what you're emphasizing here. So thank you. I appreciate it. Fascinating conversation, something I'm sure we'll continue to talk about in the months and years to come. And appreciate you taking some time to talk about this.
Great. Stay safe.
You too.